Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Chalice Brands channel, an EBITDA positive, financially disciplined, and vertically integrated cannabis company. Joining us today is the President and Chief Executive Officer, Jeff Yapp. Welcome, sir.
Glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Such a pleasure to have you. This is going to be a really well-rounded conversation about your company and your background. Lots to dive into today. So first and foremost, tell us a bit about yourself, Jeff. You come back from a crazy background with a lot of history, from tech giants to movies. Give us some insight on kind of what led up to Chalice Brands.
Well, it's kind of funny. I describe my background as a little bit like a bad date. It's a little bit of dessert, a little bit of pizza, some movies, some wine, and then into cannabis. So there we go. But I career started marketing kind of brands. I was with Kraft General Foods, so I would say a very technically trained brand strategist. Then I moved into running marketing for Pizza Hut, which introduced me to the entertainment business. I did a lot of work with Emblem Entertainment on a promotional basis and Steven Spielberg, and got recruited to then go to 20th Century Fox. And I was president of international distribution and then president of worldwide distribution for the studio. Loved the job. It was times of Braveheart and Independence Day, and last film we greenlit was Titanic. So it was quite the ride. Really enjoyed that. I'm the proud father of 7 children, which is probably the thing I'm most proud of. And my youngest at the time was struggling in Los Angeles, and we made a decision to move to Oregon and move into retail. And I ran Hollywood Entertainment. We opened up a store a day for almost 3 years, and we had 1,500 stores and 30,000 employees, and that was quite the ride. And then recruited to work with the Dolans out in Cablevision in New York. So I was commuting back and forth to New York and did that for a while. Launched their retail chain called The Wiz in high-speed internet, and was recruited by MTV and went to MTV. Working for MTV, VH1, CMT, and Logo, thing called Program Enterprise. It was really their innovations division. So I spent time there and had the opportunity to launch a little game called Guitar Hero and Rock Band, which was quite the ride. We went from nothing to several $1 billion in about 3 years. I knew we'd hit something big when I was having a meeting, and they told me that we'd run out of the worldwide supply of drumsticks. So I knew we were on to something in that operation. I produced movies there too. One of the movies was Crazy Heart. We won 2 Academy Awards. And then I had this crazy idea of, I was going to do a startup with 3 kids in college, which to this day I'll tell everyone, never a good idea, but it was with an artist named Taylor Swift. I'd been working with her digital background, her digital platforms, and started that as a music, and it was an interesting ride, but made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot. And then, in the last 11 years, started a consulting company with a large tech company. I'll say it unnamed right now, but let's just say it's a big one. I've been there now 11 years, and that's what introduced me to cannabis. It was kind of interesting. They were interested in the space. They had me go out and meet a bunch of producers, growers, spent a lot of time in the New York market. And I found myself leaving those meetings thinking about cannabis as a kind of next generation health and wellness product. And I had, this kind of unique experience of one of my children, CJ, was born with Crohn's, colitis, and diagnosed autistic. And it put us on a path of alternative health and wellness. And so it was plant-based medicines. It was all modalities except pharmaceutical. And today, he's a 26-year-old, amazing, kid, kind of the star of our lives. And I really, as I saw and learned more about cannabis, I started to feel the same way, that it provided opportunities for an audience. Almost everyone in the United States gets affected by certain conditions. And I thought cannabis was really well suited. Like everything in cannabis, especially in the kind of 1.0 phase, the guys were involved with some shaky financial investors, and guys I connected with were no longer in the business, so we moved on. But I was introduced to a guy named William Simpson, who had started Chalice Farms in Oregon. He had started for the same reason. He believed cannabis saved his life. And he was a, very athletic, mixed martial arts, a lot of, injuries and pain, and was on all sorts of, painkillers, and basically saw himself flushing down the toilet. And he was introduced to cannabis, and it kind of completely turned him around after some cookies and a little bit edible. And he got, in classic William style, dove deep into it. And started Chalice Farms. And I started as an advisor, working with the board, and have been involved ever since. And then about 2 years ago, joined Cannabis as the CEO a year and a half ago. And I tell you, if I sometimes write a book, it will be about the cannabis industry, because literally I have a career that's now 40 plus years I've been working, and I've never been through what you go through in the cannabis space. It literally, the week I started, we had the vape ban in Oregon, which quickly, 40% of my product was no longer legal, which was a problem. And then we recovered from that. Kate rethought the plan and said, okay, we can start shooting. And then we introduced the COVID, which is unlike anything I've ever been through. But the team has shown such amazing agility. And, 3 days later, we all packed up working remotely. We never missed a day. We made a decision, unlike a lot of competitors, to actually lean into COVID. So we actually started hiring. One of the things that was so critical was that we make sure our employees and our customers were safe. So I didn't want anybody to feel the pressure to have to come to work if they didn't feel well. So we actually overhired, which turned out to be great. We never missed a single day. So we started getting through COVID. Business started to take off. Checks started to show up. People were sitting at home. Our business took off, which was great. And then we ended up, with massive social unrest. And if you were watching the news at all during that time, Portland, I think we were 130 days of straight, riots and Antifa issues, and it was horrible. And our stores were broken into constantly. Our crews were amazing. They went in the middle of the night, cleaned them up, and we never missed an opening. So I just say we built an amazing team at Chalice. And, after that, we got that kind of behind us, and we learned how to deal with it. And then, we tried to burn the whole state down with kind of forest fires like we'd never seen before, which threatened a lot of our partners and threatened ourselves, and got within, a half a mile of our grow, and thought we might lose the whole thing. But, Megan Miller, who's our COO, was up there, and I think she is obviously blessed because fire changed directions, and all of a sudden we were okay. So it was good. We came through that. And then we ended up in the biggest ice storm of all time and lost our power for almost 8 days. Thought that was going to happen. But through all of that, we came out of it stronger. And the business is now, we went from losing money like crazy. It was basically, I think, written off as dead. I used to give one of our local journalists a hard time because every article talked about us being dead and we're still alive. So I'm like, what's happening? But it's been fun to watch that turn around. But it's all built around amazing products and an amazing team. And we put together, I think, a really interesting balance of team and background that has allowed us to really thrive.
Yeah, and the fact that you talk about such a mission-driven purpose, I think definitely kind of gave you some conviction to work through these challenging times. But to be honest, I wouldn't mind signing an NDA and just having a drink with you and talking about some of the insights into your past. But putting that aside, let's kind of divulge the business a little bit more, because you do have a few interesting mottos like crawl, walk, run, seed to sale. I kind of want to break down the investment philosophy here in this kind of vertically integrated business. So, I mean, do you mind just talking about the growing, manufacturing, wholesale, distribution, et cetera?
Sure. Let me start with crawl, walk, run, because I think it's important. It's an important principle. And, my career for 25 or 30 years was with Fortune 25 companies. So capital was never an issue. Now, if you go in the cannabis space, and we do it every day, capital is everything, right? The ability to have the money to pay your people to keep your stores open is life. And when I did the startup, I paid a very painful lesson for not really respecting how important cash was. So what we decided to do when I got to Chalice, we were like all other companies. They were making big bets, big acquisitions, spending lots of money. And I just said, stop, this makes no sense. And crawl, walk, run is really a really simple philosophy. It says, look, spend the least amount of money you can, forego margin, and validate your revenue model. Is it a product? Is it a market that's going to accept your product? And then once you understand your rev model, then you can invest to accelerate revenue. That's the walk phase. And then you invest to accelerate margin, which is kind of the next phase. And that to me has proved really valuable for us. So you're not walking in spending $20 million hoping something's going to work. You forego margin, which at the time you're not making it anyway, so it's no big deal. You don't lose money, but you literally don't invest money hoping it's going to work. Once you understand it, then you can be very disciplined and measured about how you invest to grow revenue. So Is it, expanding distribution? Is it expanding your footprint? Is it hiring people? You can make those decisions, and you do it in a way that provides incremental returns, so you know exactly what your projected returns are. That then gets you to this run phase, which is kind of what we'll talk about, the vertical integration. But run is where you now invest to optimize for margin, right? And that leads you to kind of seed the sale. And I know it's a term that's thrown around loosely, but we, having been involved in lots of retail operations, both where we sold our own products and where we sold, wholesale products of other partners. And the reality of it is, when you're in an agricultural business, the margins that are available to you from an agricultural, there's risk there, obviously, but the margins available to you when you own the distribution of that product is phenomenal. And it changes your profitability almost overnight. So we think that, look, retail is that ultimate decision. It's very expensive, very capital intensive. But when you own your own stores and you own your own product, that's the way you can optimize margin. Now, one thing that we're really sensitive to, and I think this goes back to, I didn't talk about it, but I had an opportunity to work for Ernest Gallo. And Ernest was I guess you could call the father of the modern wine business today. But very similar analogy. He came into a market where, the grape business in the United States was Thompson seedless grapes. And he had to work with farmers to build, the varietal wines that you see today in the plantings. And it took time, but he made those long-term commitments to kind of get you to where you needed to be. And I think for us, we've always recognized that while we could put 100% of our revenue in our own products, because we represent almost all categories, we go from flour to concentrates to edibles, we make it all. But our job is to say, and we've all agreed as a team, our target's about 50% of our product is our own and about 50% of our partners. We think that we have a massive responsibility, especially as we continue to grow in our store footprint. And our vision is to be the leader in the marketplace. But as we grow our store footprint, we have to create an opportunity for, growers and our farmers and innovators. We think that, part of what makes this industry great is the constant innovation that, craft farmers bring to their approach and the way they grow their flower. And so we have responsibility. We make a commitment. Megan is, in fact, traveling today, visiting some small farms down in Southern Oregon to give them, a platform for their product. And I think that's really important for the community. So no matter how big we get, it will always be a place where we can curate the best products and give those innovators an opportunity to kind of connect with consumers through our stores. So for us, it's a real mission and value that we believe in the community of cannabis and what it represents.
For sure, Jeff. So, I mean, you've been through it all, man. Fires, ice storms, riots. You vertically integrated this business. You've worked through the financials and the cash flow. I feel like the riskier startup aspect is starting to be in the past or in the rear view mirror. But moving forward here into 2022, what's got most of your attention driving toward, and what should the retail investor be most excited to look forward to as well?
I think for us, obviously we're moving into the consolidation phase. And I think, what we bring is it's an experience I've already had. I was in the video store business when a little chain in Oregon called Hollywood Entertainment was going after Blockbuster, which was 10 times ahead of us. And we started making acquisitions. We opened up a new store every day for almost 3 years. We did probably 15 or 20 different transactions of consolidation. So we're really good at it, and we're going to continue to kind of look at consolidation. So for me, that continues to strengthen the financial profile for us, which I think is pretty exciting. I think there are also some opportunities, especially from a retail investor perspective, that we're working on that I think will really have a high profile. I think the biggest opportunity, and I saw it through COVID, and I'm going to see it, and I'm not even going to say we're counting on legalization, but I think what you are now seeing is a much broader acceptance of our product in a much broader audience. If you think about, the statistics are about 25, 30% of the audience has a relationship with cannabis. Well, that means that 75% doesn't. But when you look at kind of where cannabis is really beneficial, you think about stress, anxiety, energy, sleep, pain. That's 98% of the US population, right? And we have products that literally, and what I get so excited about when I'm in my stores. I can see someone that's 25 years old, we call a pipe hitter, likes to hit it pretty hard. We have those products and they know what they want, and to get out, and they're there. But I also see 70 and 80-year-old folks who cannabis was never even in their choice set. But the idea of taking 65 different pills or finding a product that really helps them sleep better and feel better and function better, that's a big idea, right? When I see people who are suffering, horrible diseases like cancer, and they've tried everything and they finally come to us, it's there. And then think about 30-year-olds. One of the things that, I have the privilege of is working with a lot of younger folks, but the level of anxiety that I see in that generation is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And rather than get, smacked out on, pharmaceutical products, we really provide products that really help them show up to work, show up in their lives in the best possible way. That's what excites me. So I think you're going to see a growing acceptance. And literally, I think it's this kind of mid-generation that may have smoked some weed in college, right? But then kind of got out of it, started raising kids, life got busy. They were hitting wine pretty hard to try to make it work. And now they're really discovering, especially COVID kind of brought a head to it all. This really is a way to kind of show up in your life, but not with all of the anxiety that comes with it that makes your life miserable. And I think that's what I get excited about. And we're going to continue to work on some announcements in that space that's going to make this a really big deal. And, the way we built our stores is to create an environment that you don't feel intimidated. Part of what happens for a lot of folks, it was, there were 2 doors, you had to show your ID. It's kind of creepy, actually, when you think about it. Now we're wide open. We want people to come in, and we've trained, and we have a really, dedicated team that really wants to help you understand, and they will meet you with whatever level of knowledge you have. If you want to talk about our genetic strains and our terpene profiles, great, let's go. We'll talk about what works for you. If you want to just try to understand broadly what can help you, in your life every day, we're good there too. So I think that's the excitement, is that you're going to continue to see growth in people's acceptance of this product and its usage on a more normal basis. And if you think about the size of the pharmaceutical industry and the alcohol industry, that's how we think about competition. We don't think I'm trying to steal share from another cannabis operator. In fact, I fully support great operators. If you run a really good operation, then good for you. I want you to be great. I don't want bad operators. I don't want people who give miserable experiences to consumers. If you have one bad one, you're not coming back. And so for us, we've got a lot of partnerships with really great retailers in Oregon and California, and we're fully supportive of that because we think our mission is far bigger than current users.
This has been a very wholesome, well-rounded conversation. I appreciate you coming out today, Jeff. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. On that note, folks, let us know what you think in that comment section below. Consider subscribing for those future updates as that news comes down the wire. But on that note, stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.